I had a clubhouse or a treehouse as a kid? I sure did. We had a lot of fun in that things too. That was our little safe place. We didn't have to allow parents or other people or anybody. It was just me and my closest friends that would hang out in there and have a good time. There's an SCP related to preying on children that actually hang out in tree houses. SCP-974, the Treehouse Predator. This one's by SCP Explained. Make sure to head on over to their channel, guys, and subscribe. And let's get into this animation.
Imagine this.
All right.
It's summer vacation and you're a kid. You and your friends are playing in the woods near your neighborhood, just like you've been doing most days during the break from school.
Right.
One day you spot a treehouse. It's not that high off the ground, and it's very simply built from leaves,
just
grass,
a random
and scraps of wood. You and your friends are curious,
ain't part of their club?
so you decide to check it out.
It's a big
Upon
one, but it looks
investigation,
kinda dilapidated.
you find a kid in there. He says his name is Billy, and this is his treehouse.
What's up, Billy?
You don't recognize him from school, but you figure he just must be new in town. He asks if he can join your group, and wanting to be nice to the new kid, you tell him, okay.
Well, that's nice.
You spend the rest of the day playing with him, games like hide and seek,
Billy the bad
tag,
guy?
and Red Rover,
Billy and
until
SCP?
it's time for everyone to go home for dinner.
Sure.
Strangely, Billy doesn't seem to leave. He just stays
Billy's
in
gonna
his
stay there.
treehouse. For the rest of the week, playing with Billy in his treehouse become a regular fixture of your daily routine.
All right.
But oddly enough, he never comes
You
to
make
hang out
friends.
at any of your houses.
Okay.
And you never seem to see him anywhere else but in the woods.
Maybe
One
he's
day,
got a
however,
troubled
he
home
decides
life.
to invite one of your friends, Amy, to hang out with him at the treehouse alone. You think nothing of it, but after that point,
Kissing games?
you never see Billy again.
What?
It's a couple of weeks before you and your friends see Amy again.
Okay.
And when you do, she appears off somehow.
Okay.
She seems to be spending a
Little
lot
weird.
of time in that treehouse. Billy has disappeared, but you and Amy and the rest of the kids keep meeting up to play together in the woods.
Right.
One day, Amy pulls you aside. She wants you to come meet with her tomorrow at the treehouse, alone.
Okay.
This is typically how an SCP-974 infestation begins. With a mysterious
Infestation.
new kid inviting a group of friends to hang out in this crudely made treehouse. But as you might have guessed, this kid
Billy is
isn't
not
a kid.
normal. Right.
He's SCP-974. A carnivorous
He's
monster
evil.
that
Oh!
only looks like a human child. It
So
can
he
live on small
shapeshifts.
woodland animals, but its preferred prey is kids between the ages of 6 and 12. Taking the phrase, "you are what you eat," to the next level. The entity will install itself in an area with a sufficient amount of trees, in proximity to a decent population of children.
Of course.
It will then construct a crude
Good
treehouse
food.
to serve as its nest.
He makes
and
its
begin
own?
befriending groups of between 2 and 5 children.
Yeah.
The creature will engage in normal outdoor games and allow its new friends to come and go as they please,
He does
building
the
the trust
whole
of its
bait
newfound
switch
playmates.
thing, too.
But then, after
Takes
about a
his
week,
time.
it will
After about
select
a
its
week.
victim.
I
SCP-974
wanna
will
eat
single
her.
out one member of the group and invite them to the treehouse alone. Whether they accept or deny the invitation is irrelevant, because this is the point where SCP-974 will strike,
Right.
subduing and then devouring that child.
Dang.
After doing so, the creature will disappear from the area, going into a state of hibernation for roughly 12 days.
Okay.
During that time, it goes through a period of metamorphosis,
It
transforming
changes
from whoever
to
it
the
looked
new
like before
kid.
into an exact likeness
Yeah.
of the child it just
You
consumed.
know, that's the smart way to do it if you're gonna eat kids.
Will continue this cycle of selecting and catching prey until there are no children left in the surrounding area.
Wow.
While it's initially friendly to children, SCP-974 has an intense fear of any older
Pretty
human
aggressive
beings.
to
The mere
adults,
presence
or
of a person
fear?
older than 13 is enough to trigger the creature's fight or flight response.
Okay.
And it will run
He will
away
fight,
if it
though.
sees any adults coming. When running isn't an option, SCP-974 will
Claws come
resort
out.
to violence to defend itself. Despite its looks, SCP-974 is much stronger, faster, and more resistant to damage than a child.
I
and it
see.
has been known to completely rip adults apart in situations where it felt threatened and cornered.
Wow.
SCP-974
imagine
does not
being
appear to be
attacked by
affected by
something that looks
bullets
like a
or
kid in the
striking
woods?
weapons. And the only reliable way to put down an instance seems
Kill
to
it
be
with fire.
When
Yes.
infestations are discovered in the wild,
That's
the normal
perfect.
SCP Foundation protocol is to attempt to capture the creature. But if deadly force is required, agents will set
burning the
fire to the
nest.
creature's nest and a portion of the surrounding area until it has been confirmed dead,
Right.
before covering up the destruction as the result of a regular forest fire. The SCP Foundation was able to capture one instance of SCP-974 and place it in containment, hoping that having one in captivity would provide insight into the creature's origins. It was placed in a lightly wooded enclosure at Zoological Reserve Site-16, where it immediately started constructing multiple treehouse nests from the plant life it found. Initially, the containment of SCP-974 involved offering the creature live human prey. Once every 3 months, a group of 4 children would be brought in accordance with Protocol 12.
Can you
imagine?
The
children would be given room and board in on-site barracks.
They're actually
encouraged to explore the enclosure and play with SCP-974.
What?
If 974 had not selected a victim within 5 days, the group of children would be sent away and a new group would be introduced. This system worked for a few years. But as you never got to eat any. The Ethics Committee had a problem with the practice of offering up live children to a deadly anomaly. Now, as of January 1st, 2015, the team at Zoological Reserve Site-16 are no longer able to evoke Protocol 12 in order to acquire children. Attempts to use another SCP,
the Foundation's crazy.
SCP-1680, a collection of clones of a missing 8-year-old boy, failed, as SCP-974 refused to eat them. The procedures then changed to only allow small animals to be introduced into the enclosure as prey. While it might seem like this was a good idea that would stop SCP-974 from killing any more children, like a lot of seemingly good changes to containment procedures in the Foundation, this well-intentioned move would ultimately have deadly consequences.
What happened?
SCP-974 at first seemed to behave normally despite being denied its favorite food. But then, on August 16th, 2015,
it went crazy?
While on their weekly sweep of the enclosure, patrol teams found that 974 had destroyed all of the tree houses it had built in its time in containment. The SCP itself was also nowhere to be found. There was something new in the enclosure, though. A small oval of disturbed soil. A geological team was called in, and through ground-penetrating radar, it was found that there was a humanoid figure buried there, curled up in a fetal position. This couldn't be SCP-974, could it? The figure was much too long and thin to be anything resembling a human
So what the heck happened?
But it had to be SCP-974. It was the only living thing in the enclosure. The scientists were intrigued, and they theorized that the SCP might have entered a new life stage. Further scans were conducted over the next 10 days. During that time, the creature never moved from its position, though it did continue to grow. It seemed like it was absorbing nutrients from the surrounding soil. The team decided to exhume the creature to examine it. When they dug it up, they found that SCP-974 had stretched out, now measuring 220 centimeters in length and weighing just 37.4 kilograms.
It grew up?
It had no features or orifices of any kind anywhere on its body. And its now pale white skin was covered in some kind of sticky mucus that, when examined,
it's doing the metamorphosis
found to contain
thing.
a previously undiscovered enzyme. The creature was alive, but barely. It wasn't breathing, and its heartbeat was extremely slow, almost to the point of being undetectable. SCP-974 was examined for an additional 4 weeks, after which it died and was sent for dissection.
Like a cocoon?
Some of the scientists and researchers at Zoological Site-16 were disappointed to hear about 974's death. As vicious and feral as the creature was, they developed a certain fondness for it and its many tree houses.
Well, you should have fed it some more kids, I guess.
Too much longer until a new specimen was obtained. On October 16, 2016, a group of no less than 7 instances of SCP-974 were discovered near a major American city. The containment team was forced to kill 6 of the anomalies in the attempts to capture them, but one instance survived and was taken to Zoological Site-16, as was mandated. The area was burned, and Foundation counterintelligence disseminated a cover story about a forest fire caused by an improperly extinguished campfire. The new SCP-974 was, like the original one, placed in the enclosure and denied human prey. Also like the first one, this 974 buried itself after being denied its preferred meals for several months. The decision was made to leave the SCP underground longer than the first instance, to see what it might become if this developmental stage wasn't interrupted.
That's some sort of developmental stage. I was about to say that it's going to evolve.
The creature finally dug
like
itself free from the earth.
Okay.
Now designated SCP-974-A. It was far more aggressive than any instance of 974 had ever been before. As soon as it was free from the dirt, it made a beeline straight for the nearest monitoring station. It ripped the roof off and tore the 6 team members stationed there to shreds in just 90 seconds. When the response team arrived 15 minutes later, only 12% of the human remains were able to be recovered.
Wow,
but, strangely
12%.
enough, it at first seemed like one of the team had been spared. Georgia Stone, one of the monitoring team, was severely injured, but apparently in a stable condition. Disoriented, she approached the response team, begging for assistance and urging them to take her out of the enclosure. But the team was skeptical.
Did he change?
They knew that SCP-974 could become an exact copy of any child it consumed.
Right.
So it followed that the fully grown SCP-974-A might be able to copy adults. They asked Georgia questions in order to confirm her identity, but she was unable to answer them. Having been found out, SCP-974, still mimicking Georgia, attacked the response team. They'd been armed with flamethrowers, but unfortunately, on top of its resistance to damage, the adult form of 974 didn't seem to be afraid of or harmed by fire. The team was at a loss for how to kill this thing, or even subdue it long enough to get out safely. SCP-974-A was tearing through the members of the team like they were made out of paper. Thinking quickly, one member of the response team, a guard named Emilio, pulled out one of his standard-issue Foundation hand grenades. When SCP-974-A came at him, he pulled the pin and, holding the grenade, shoved his arm into the creature's open mouth.
Oh my God!
While the explosion destroyed Emilio's arm, it didn't even break the skin of SCP-974-A. However, it did result in serious damage to its internal organs, which finally ended up killing it. Following its death, an autopsy was conducted, revealing enough about the creature that a new file of effective methods of extermination was able to be created. After this event, the protocols for SCP-974 containment were completely overhauled. Any instances of SCP-974-A seen in the wild are to be killed as quickly as possible. More disturbingly, though, the Ethics Committee rescinded their previous decision, and any instances of 974 that are brought into containment are to be provided with human prey again. Letting SCP-974 kill children might not be a very humane way of keeping it contained. It's terrible! But given how much more aggressive and hard to kill this SCP's adult form is, any option that stops the creature's metamorphosis from happening is likely the best option in the long run. So remember,
just kill it.
If you're ever out in the woods and see a crudely constructed treehouse,
don't go in
perhaps think twice.
Don't go in
how innocent it is. There could be something hungry lurking inside.
Dude, I don't know if I mean, why don't they just kill him? Like, there's some SCPs that they should be contained and stuff like that, but something that you ultimately have to sacrifice kids for? No. I'm not with that at all. This is a good one though, guys. SCP Explained. Make sure to sub to him as well as a couple other reactions that I've done by him. Thanks so much for watching. As always, this is Zueljin signing off. We'll see you next time.